I am really fascinated by the notion of near-death experiences where people might even clinically die, and they seem to go to a different place and have visions that are eerily similar. I don't know whether this is true or not because I haven't experienced it, but it's weird to me that so many people see the same thing when they have almost died or died and been brought back to life. There's something really interesting about that gives me pause.
Yeah, like the similarities between all their experiences, whether it's hovering above your body, clearer mind, seeing future events play out.
Seeing this light.
Seeing light, a tunnel.
Almost as if you're like looking down on what's happening.
It's like an out-of-body.
Out-of-body experience. I am somebody who is super skeptical, but I could see a scenario in which this exists because maybe it does something to the brain in that moment and you can experience these things because you're about to die. It's so traumatic.
Yeah, psychologically, trauma will cause a splitting off of consciousness and out-of-body experiences we call dissociation, which is that out-of-body looking down. Trauma victims report it a lot.
Is that a simulation though? Because how do you explain someone who's able to hear conversations in another place and then come back and know what that person is saying? For example, my friend, he drowned in a river rafting trip. And he left his body, he's hovering over the river, and he remembers his friends searching for him, really spread out across the bank, and he could hear their conversations. But his body was under the water. There's no way he could have known what they were saying.
Well, that's the real trouble with trying to prove this, is, you know, it's all testimonial.
There's a woman named Heather May, who is on the Shaman Oaks podcast, which is hosted by Alan Chapman.
And like I'm noticing these people that I knew that passed. And my great-grandmother stepped towards me. And this always makes me tear up. She said, "Heather, you have died." And I was like, no, that can't be.
I believe her.
Yeah, but that is an internal thought. Like we have that in dreams and things like that as well. So
the difference is the consistency, though. I mean, it's one thing to assume we can't prove the non-tangible in a lot of ways, but we could say this is a hallucination. If everybody who's a part of this, a lot of heart attack victims are having similar hallucinations.
Almost identical with light and all that.
It's consistent, but it's general. There's a light, where a togetherness vibe.
But people are comparing it to like what happens when you take psychedelics. You have a psychedelic experience. I don't know many people who have tripped who then have an identical, even general or vague, similar tripping experience.
When we talk about hallucinations and we talk about all these different experiences, it implies that the brain is still working, and usually during near-death experiences, a lot of the times your brain is not necessarily functioning.
You could be legally dead and where there's no brain function and they bring it back to life.
Right.
If the brain isn't working, how does the mind then continue?
I think we have to consider the timing of these events. So if you are dead and you have absolutely no brain power and then you are woken back up, your mind is going to try to recover that missing point of time. And depending on previous beliefs, it could just fill in the gap with whatever you believed beforehand. So it's like a false memory.
Yeah, our memories are not static. They're constantly being recalibrated based on whatever we are influenced by, whatever we're exposed to. They're not tangible. It's not a video camera.
It doesn't have to do with biology. It definitely has to do with your spirit, your soul. And maybe it is informed by your beliefs, but I think that it is an outer body experience, and your brain can be dead, your soul can be trying to save you, and then you wake back up.
But one thing that I noticed amongst a lot of religions when it comes to near-death experiences, death, the afterlife, death usually is a point in time of reset. These are usually reset experiences, and I think that the common thread amongst us is that, you know, they were about to be out of here. However, there was something that came over them that let them know that they're supposed to be here.
I mean, atheists who are agnostic or they don't believe in anything, they're saying, I have also had a near-death experience and suddenly had this very similar
But they could still be informed by the culture they were raised in.
And I don't think you need to be religious to believe in that kind of spirituality.
I would also like a larger test sample and see what other people from other cultures have experienced, because this is very Western.
Yeah, like the white light. I mean, we've heard that, we've seen it in movies, we've read about it from the time, I mean, since I was a kid, you read these sort of stories, so that influences
Exactly.
Yeah, but not everybody who has that knows this. That's not like a front and center concept. I know a lot of people know it.
And not everyone studies it, right?
Yeah.
Even within psychology, we believe that a lot of us believe that we are biopsychosocial spiritual beings. Therapeutically, we're taught, most of us, that we have to attend and respect all those different spheres and dimensions.
Although science never wants to say what that is. It's some subtle energy, something that might be there.
Literally 180 of what science is. There is no evidence, empirical evidence for it. It's not testable by any means.
But it's a very, very much a shared experience in terms of what they see.